it's been a significant investment for us, and we believe that creating a new platform that serves as the underlying engine for this customer experience management is critical to ensuring that not just applications move to the cloud, but the data that's in silos actually integrate. So excited about that. General availability, we've had some great customer adoption for that already. Certainly an update on Magento and Marketo, which were the two big acquisitions that we made since we last had Summit, and I think we've already demonstrated success in integrating both of those as you saw. Exciting announcement around what we could do combining B2B and B2C, and in our partnership with Microsoft and LinkedIn being able to do what we call account-based experiences. We think the distinction between what's a B2B company and what's a B2C company is certainly blurring, and the ability for us to provide a more unified offering, whether it's campaigns, whether it's analytics, whether it's content management, across all of those has certainly been a big area of investment for us. Abhay continues to lead the charge on artificial intelligence and machine learning and everything that we're doing around infusing Sensei into each of our products. And while we didn't cover that specifically, and we have all of the key leaders here, virtually every single product offering that we have in every single cloud, there was a very significant amount of innovation. We certainly had press releases in terms of what we've done on the advertising cloud and cross channels. We talked a little bit more about what's happening in Marketo, but happy to also share. But again, thank you very much for being here, and Stacey, I'll turn it back to you.
Great, so who has a question?
Don, go ahead.
Okay. Let's go to Elise. You want to take the question over here?
Hi, I'm Mike Bizzardi, IT business agent. We've all seen the surveys where people talk about there's more money being spent by marketing departments in IT than the IT budgets per se. And yet, a lot of that money seems to be going into these big data platforms and whatever else people are building. And so is that money kind of being misdirected in the way it's being spent? Because it seems like you're saying that people just buy this as a service rather than go build all this stuff yourself. So where does that line between where you guys fit and IT fits kind of line up?
I'll start, and then maybe you can certainly add. It's our perspective, and I think we tried to share that with our own, how we run our business, that when we had to develop this common business infrastructure for us to move our business from desktop software to the cloud, the availability of software that allows people to tie together all of those disparate systems just doesn't exist. I mean, when you think about all of the data that exists in silos, being able to even ingest all that data, being able to normalize that in a common taxonomy, being able to hydrate it with all of the solution data, and then do queries on top of that. If you were a CIO today who didn't have access to the kind of technology that you have, what you would do is you'd be building some of this by necessity, because that was really the only way for you to bring together all of these different sources of data. And I think it's been our attempt and our hope that if we can make that process much simpler, then we can allow industries to focus on what their key business imperatives are. Namely, I think everybody would say when you're using AI or machine learning, 80% of the time you're taking is actually just to bring that data together and to normalize it. Well, we want to take care of that with you. When you're trying to do BigQuery and get access to all of this data to do insight, we can do that for you in Sensei. So I don't think it's misguided or misdirected. I think it was the state of art or where the industry was. And like we've done with a whole bunch of other industries since Adobe's inception, our job is to democratize the ability to have that access at your fingertips.
Yeah, no, I think Shantanu covered this. I guess just to kind of, if you look at technology landscape in the enterprise, there's always a kind of point where early days there is no available solution that's best in class, and so IT environments are forced to kind of go roll your own, if you will. And if you look at what happened with e-commerce, you look at what happened with content management, we all forget now that those used to be actually 10 years ago, 15 years ago, roll your own. And today nobody thinks of those as things, anything other than deploying off-the-shelf platforms and solutions. So one, I would just echo Shantanu's point that this is just a natural progression. If and when companies like Adobe, as we step up and solve that problem, I think the CIOs and C-level execs are very happy to say we move up the value chain. That's one. The only other thing I will say, this is a hard problem. And if you just look at the amount of engineering skill set and sophistication we are bringing to bear, what we hear when we talk to companies is they barely get their data lake projects off the ground. They spend years. And honestly, instead of actually getting kind of, sometimes we joke internally, instead of swimming in insights, they're all drowning in data lakes. They actually don't get past bringing data into these data lakes, where their focus really should be on delivering experiences and actions and personalization as a result of these data lake projects. And so for us, hopefully the goal with Adobe Experience Platform and what we are asserting is we have solved a lot of the heavy lifting so that customers and companies can focus on actually what they do best, is focus on their experience delivery.
Let's take a question over here, Melissa.
Hi, I'm Jay Bear from Convert. Great job today. Really excellent unveiling of the new products. Obviously, the theme, customer experience management, was driven home. In your estimation, is that more of a product consolidation initiative or a philosophical change around CX? And on a little bit of a related note, more and more brands have dedicated CX professionals, customer experience departments. In this era of CXM, does that mean that those professionals or those departments become unnecessary as CX gets spread out across the enterprise?
Well, a couple of things I think that we've always stated. We talk about generations of enterprise software. And, the first generation, if it was all about automating the back office, and you agreed on a financial system, and then sort of everything was built to work with that. The next generation of enterprise software was all about the front office, knowledge workers like us in enterprises, and saying, how do we make them more productive? I think what we have seen is this fundamental shift where unless you start at it from what's the customer journey, and then look customer in and build your internal systems to fit that customer journey, the velocity and the agility with which you need to operate is just not there. And so I think the assertion that we are making as a company is that we're going to step up and enable people to think first about that customer experience delivery. But we've also done a lot of heavy lifting. Abhay talked about when you can agree on what that customer journey taxonomy looks like, and you have companies like Adobe and Microsoft agreeing on that and doing the heavy lifting. Wow, that now becomes a little bit more out of the box than it was. When you have the ability to tie into visualization tools that you're using to action, whether it's Power BI or Tableau, suddenly that's also now getting lit up in terms of the ability to do that. The partnership that we announced with ServiceNow, where ServiceNow is building all of these different, they have an unbelievable developer ecosystem, and they're thinking about how do I get employees and customers and build IT service management. So I think a lot of the building blocks are coming in place. I can go on and on. For ingestion, what we've done with partners like SnapLogic or Informatica or Unify, who are saying, okay, wow, we're also on this journey. So to answer your question, I would actually say the more we can raise the bar on what we are trying to do as plumbing, infrastructure, companies can really focus on what they do best, which is if you're in the travel and hospitality, how can you deliver that great experience? So I don't think it changes the need for having those organizations, but I think it changes what they can focus on, which is more on the customer and delivering more value. And that's what we've seen in our company as we've grown. I mean, a Wednesday morning meeting, it's the most staggering meeting that you have. You have every person out there, they're looking at all this DDOM data. Now, I'll tell you this one story, which is, so I'm in that meeting, I sat in the back of the room and I didn't want anybody to know I was there. And so they're all going through this discover, try, buy, use, renew journey. And somebody says, look at this discover. All the traffic is going to this mobile app. This mobile app, it was Photoshop Express, it's doing incredibly well. But for some reason, senior management, this is what somebody actually said, for some reason, senior management doesn't think that that's a hot product. How do we tell them? And it changes the complete narrative, because the truth is in the data. And so that's what I mean by those people are now equipped at that Wednesday meeting to say, you know what, we're going to push this product more and we're going to make sure that we have more traffic for it. So I think it actually adds to the possibilities of what the company focuses on.
Great. And for anyone publishing, DDOM is data-driven operating model from Shantanu's undercover boss story.
I would imagine that, Stacy, that's the one thing they hopefully got out of that, you know. But thank you.
Yeah. Kevin, do you want to take one over on this side of the room? Anyone? Okay. And Elise?
Thank you, and I'm a reporter from the Bloomberg Business Week channel. I have two questions. Would you please share Adobe's acquisition plan for this year, and what kind of target companies are you looking at? Some reports said Adobe just started digesting two acquisitions of the Marketo and the Magento, and how will you address this itself, the integration? And the second one is Adobe has set a very high expectation for digital experience business, but with the previous lead and Fred Venture left Adobe early this year, how do you, will there any change happening about organization within Adobe? Thank you.
The second question I didn't fully capture. The first one was about acquisition strategy in Magento and Marketo.
I didn't get the second.
If you could
Do you
just
mind?
make sure that we understand the second question.
Okay, and the second question is there any organizational change happening now within Adobe?
You know, I think first let's talk about the acquisition strategy that we have. I mean, Adobe has always believed that, you know, acquisitions are a way to continue to grow the company. But if you think about what we've done, it really is organic innovation, or innovation that we put in the company, and the ability to build a platform that we think enables us to best integrate our products. Even two acquisitions that we did last year was a little bit out of the norm for Adobe, because we tend to be very conservative. We look for great technology, great people. But with both Magento and Marketo, we saw some unbelievably unique ability to extend our platform. You know, with Magento, we've always had partnerships on e-commerce, but we looked at it and said, if there's a next generation e-commerce system that, again, as I said, straddles B2B and B2C, straddles physical goods and digital goods, which is really hard to do, and that has this incredible ecosystem of partners, that would enable us, again, out of the box, to actually tie together everything from, you know, content creation all the way out to, as Jason said, you know, making the experience shoppable. We're thrilled. We've already done some integration that we've actually delivered at Magento Live, which is how you can integrate AEM, which is the Adobe Experience Manager content management system, with commerce. And with Marketo, the whole idea was that what we do with Adobe Campaign for B2C companies, namely creation of the campaign, orchestration of the campaign, delivery of that campaign. I think, as Steve said this morning, the distinction between what's a B2B company and a B2C company is fast blurring. Is NVIDIA, who has an incredible gaming franchise, a B2B company or a B2C company? And they do incredible stuff with respect to selling their chips, you know, to companies that are in the autonomous vehicle space. Same thing, I think you had a bank there. I mean, you know, when you look at what's happening with banks, banking has commercial banking, and they certainly have consumer banking. And so the ability for us to help the CMO say, you can create this campaign once. And remember, at the end of the day, when you're targeting an account is a bunch of individuals in that company. And so all the lessons of B2C are B2B. So put these two things together. The reason we were excited about doing both of them at the same time was the fact that we had this experience platform, and so our ability to plug it in has become a lot better than anything else. But right now, you know, we're very happy with what we have at Adobe. We're not looking for, you know, aggressive acquisitions, because we think we have a great comprehensive offering. And, you know, it's our job to deliver value to the customers. Having said that, even if I was looking for a small company, I would be unlikely to tell you which company that was. And with respect to your second question, I mean, I think part of what we are doing is we start off with a product company and making sure that the product organizations completely align. And so yes, we have put these organizations together to make sure we get the synergy associated with the product offering, as well as the synergy associated with marketing this effectively. And on the field side, you know, we have people, we have a distinct new mid-market offering, and therefore, you know, that's a new exciting opportunity. and the enterprise has certainly been an area of strength for us for many years.
The one thing I would add, just again, goes to our core unique approach and belief. As these great companies and products, whether it's Magento, Marketo, kind of they become part of the broader Adobe family from a product standpoint, we don't view that just as a superficial branding exercise. We actually go deep product integration, and we talked a little bit this morning with Adobe Experience Platform. And so the work required on our part and the commitment we make to customers is we are going to ensure as these things come together, 1 + 1 = 3, for that to happen, you really have to actually go fundamentally integrate the products. And so one of the great things about what Steve talked this morning, we have always had an unbelievable richness in our IP around B2C data models and understanding of B2C behaviors and what Adobe Experience Platform does. Now what Marketo gives us is ability to seamlessly expand and augment that with a whole different world of richness of B2B profiles and how companies are modeled. And so that deep product integration is a very intentional and thoughtful exercise we go on as we think about organizations and go forward.
Okay, next question. We have one up here, Elise or Melissa.
Hi, I'm Don. I write the news for TechTarget's customer experience site. Last October at Microsoft Ignite, you and SAP and Microsoft came and announced the Open Data Initiative. What's going on with that? And just looking forward, if all your wishes and dreams came true, what would it look like in the next 2 to 4 years? What's the fruits of that?
We've actually made a tremendous amount of progress in that partnership, and I'll make a little bit of an advance plea. Satya is joining us tomorrow, so you can also hear his perspective on the partnership. But I think it starts with this fundamental belief that if we can enable the customers to do this better, that it would be effective. So what have we done since then? I mean, the first thing I'll say is the entire Adobe Experience Platform that you saw today is working on Azure. And so we have actually done the heavy lifting associated with in that entire partnership of making sure that we have the data lakes, Azure Data Lake, and what their query service is working with ours. We've agreed and normalized on a taxonomy. You saw the integration with Power BI in terms of what we are doing. And I'll give a little bit of a sneak peek. We'll show you a demo tomorrow, actually, of what a real life incredibly high-end customer is doing with the combination of what the 3 companies have been able to do together, namely, get SAP data, look at Microsoft data, because the goal there is that in this platform, we certainly bring behavioral data. We have more behavioral data than virtually any company on the planet. But if you can also bring together IoT data, if you can bring together transactional and financial data, that's really critical for bringing together, this unified customer experience. And so I think the real benefits of ODI for folks is, first, you look at it and say, hey, the heavy lifting of normalizing this data between 3 large companies is happening. And second, it's not just these silos where you have behavioral data that's separate from transactional data, that's separate from IoT data. It's bringing it all together, because that's really, if you're in the health industry and you want to provide healthcare to somebody and you want to measure IoT data, that's as much a part of the customer profile as the lifetime value that happened as part of the financial system. So it's really bringing that together. We're excited, and we've also done heavy lifting with respect to making sure our products like Adobe Experience Manager and Adobe Campaign are running as managed services on Azure. So this is it's been a very beneficial. But what makes this really exciting is the number of customers who've actually implemented pieces of this and are seeing the benefits. That's really what drives us.
Okay, next question. Let's go over there. Kevin, the gentleman behind you.
Shantanu, thanks. Ted Shadow from Forrester. It's a great event, exciting, obviously, in organic growth, nice to see. I wanted to come back to something you said, Shantanu, on stage about retention being the growth. And I know you guys report out the 3+ product ownership number out to the street and all. Can you say a little bit more about what you mean by retention being the growth, and also maybe a little bit more about what that metric is saying? Is it an owned metric, or is it a fully deployed metric, or a renewal metric? Maybe talk a little more about that kind of portfolio play within the accounts.
Sure. I mean, as we've been through our own journey and you understand retention, I would say that most companies, first focus pretty obsessively on customer acquisition. And I think when you think about the state of art of attribution of marketing and media mix and portfolio analysis, that has certainly led to customers being best in class in terms of using their marketing effectively to drive the top of the funnel. In a subscription business, I think Dan talked about it with respect to education. We talk about it with respect to our customers and software. It really is all about usage, because usage is the biggest causal thing that drives further renewal, upsell, understanding what the best product to use. And so if you think about it from companies that have acquired subscribers, if you're not retaining your customers, even to stay at the current revenue rates, you have to run faster and faster and faster. And so as the pie becomes so much larger of existing customers, I think this ruthless focus on retention, on driving usage, on understanding, we call them high value actions, what are the high value actions of what people are using. And so both in the digital media business as well as in the digital experience business, we're obsessed about how many people have logged in, what reports are they running, are they getting the value out of that? And so in the media business, it's all about usage and making sure that they use our desktop products and they use our mobile products. I will say that when we see people use our products across different surfaces, a product like Lightroom, you have incredibly higher retention rates, because guess what? They're taking pictures and then they're using it. So I think the message for every company is think about what are those high value actions. Think about what are the usage metrics that are your leading indicators to customer intimacy and customer use. And if you drive that, revenue, the truth is in these businesses, revenue and EPS tend to be a little bit more backward-looking indicators than forward-looking indicators. And so what we're trying to do with our customers is, really think about, when we talk about retention as the new growth, this obsession around usage and customer centricity, both in our digital media business, because they are our customers, and in digital experience, showing them. I'll talk about a few features. When we talk about things like anomaly detection and what's actually driving behavior, and I said geographic patterns, regions. I think just changing your mindset to focus a lot more on that, I think leads to businesses. And this is actually so true of customers I talked to. There was a large financial institution, have tens of millions of customers. Their message to us is, hey, we have a ton of customers. We need to get a bigger share of wallet. So even if you think about it from that perspective, getting a bigger share of wallet, it's all about not the top of the funnel. It's about what else can you do based on your knowledge of the customer. And so that's a little bit of this mission that we're on, to share what we have learned. And if we can help other companies also think through, what that means. There's a lot of goodness when that works well. And there are a lot of challenges if you're not keeping, retaining, delighting your customers.
Next question, Melissa?
I'm David Romano. I write for Forbes. I also work for Evelyn. Congratulations, really amazing suite of products. I think one of the themes that came across was, especially with Sensei, was a move to smarter, more predictive AI, more efficient, more automated. And so if you keep track of sort of the conversations we're having in society, there's a little fear that comes with it. Is an algorithm going to take my job? So I'm curious where your head is at in terms of, as a large company really pioneering in this space, where is your head at in that societal conversation? Oh, okay.
So that's
I'll
great.
have them start.
That's a great question. And first of all, I'll say it's really a good question. Whenever there are breakthrough changes happening in technology industry, it is always important to be mindful of what are the positive effects and what are the potential downsides that you have to actually architect and make sure you are mindful of those potential negative consequences. So we do actually think quite a bit about that as we think about Sensei and the broader topic of AI changing the software landscape. That said, we actually have a very unique viewpoint, and I talked a little bit about this morning on stage, which is there are a lot of jobs that our target customer base marketers and practitioners do that they would rather actually not waste their time in drudgery and actually spending repetitive tasks, that if AI actually can take those out of their lives and in fact let them focus on the more creative, more storytelling, more high value activities that they would rather spend their time on. So first we approach at this from the perspective of, can we take those potential actions, potential friction points, potential things that they have to spend looking for data, looking for reports, looking for activities that they would rather not, and instead spend their energies focusing actually on the customer experience. The example Shantanu gave earlier around retention and what are actually users doing that are high value. So we internally definitely have a viewpoint that AI, if done right, and that is an important point with Sensei, we focus on, it will amplify human productivity and how users actually operate, not replace their day job. So that's number one. I will say the other piece of AI, and I understand why there is a lot of fear around automation and kind of jobs going away. The reality is every breakthrough technology over a long period of time tends to actually move the overall industry forward, actually changes the dynamic of what the labor force actually ends up choosing to do, which moves the line further. So for us, that's pretty important. The last thing I will say, which was not in your question, but this is one we focus on quite a bit. As AI becomes more pervasive, notions like the bias built into data sets and privacy into data sets and making sure we are training these algorithms and models in an ethical way relative to what the data sets need to represent, the privacy of users' data, that I would say is a very fundamental part of how we think about Sensei and AI, which is being mindful of that user efficacy, user focus on privacy, what their data represents to us, and being mindful of that.
Just a couple of things that are on my mind. First is, I don't think anything replaces the human ingenuity and creativity that's required, whether it's in the creative side or on the marketing side. Two examples I'll give to add to what Abhay said. When people are doing creative expression, the biggest thing they're terrified of is the blank page. And so if we can help them with, using AI to provide whatever asset they want to start that creative process, that's the kind of approach we take, which is how can our AI and ML be specific to the domains in which we serve. So, whether it's videos, whether it's understanding images, and remove, as Abhay said, the mundane and the drudgery. Same thing on the digital experience side. If you think about where AI is coming into bear, it's actually adding or augmenting to the marketing person's hypothesis of what their segments they have and what campaigns they want to run. In real time, when you're running this against tens of millions of people, it's impossible for humans to intervene. And so the AI is coming to learn the hypothesis and then use the data set to actually make the decision in real time. So we're just huge believers. I mean, we've invested so much in AI in our company, and we're growing our headcount because, there's more opportunity for people. And I continue to believe that, at least in my lifetime.
Great, thank you. We're going to take two more questions. So, Elise, do you want to take one over here?
Hi, Enid Burns from Digital Trends. I wanted to ask a little bit about the consumer sort of perspective. And when you're talking about bringing down silos and making more seamless integration for companies, how are you addressing and thinking about the consumer who is concerned about privacy and scared of being stalked by corporations?
It was really critical for us, therefore, to address upfront, what Adobe thinks about our privacy by design imperative, and that is in both how we engage with customers on our Adobe.com when we are attracting tens of millions of customers. It's also what's built into each one of our Experience Cloud solutions in terms of, we said trust and transparency, we talked about user choice, and we talked about control. And, I think the companies that have been incredibly successful today are those who are actually making that commitment or that trust that they have with customers front and center on their website. We do have all of the folks who run our privacy group here as well, and I'm happy to add, but I think it's that commitment to customers, and that's why even as we showed the profile, the entire intent behind what we are doing is all about making sure that the user is in control of what they are making sure that the company is able to access. And so, as a customer, if I am in control of the experience that I'm receiving and I know the data that has gone in, that's the other thing I think a lot of companies are doing, which is showing you your own profile. And I think that's also becoming absolutely state of the art. So you can look at it and understand exactly what you are allowing the enterprise to do. And coming back to Adobe, we have absolutely drawn this line in the sand for For our creative customers, for our document customers, we are completely transparent about what we collect, and we have never sold that data, and we never will. So we're unbelievably clear about what our business model is and our commitment to customers. So that's how we think about it. But I think the delights that people are getting in some of these consumer experiences are only possible through personalization. And so I think that's the line that everybody has to balance.
Okay, this will be our last question. Melissa, do you have someone over here?
Thank you. Hi, Margaret from Branding in Asia. Over the past 60 months, there's been a lot of talk, at least in the Asia Pacific, about ad fraud and brand safety. In the past few months or few weeks, you've seen attacks that have taken place that have made advertisers consider where their ads will be placed. Within the advertising cloud, do you see any acquisitions or any development on the SSP side and on the brand safety side? And if so, when can we see the rollout?
Well, Keith ED is the head of our advertising cloud. I'll have him maybe speak to the specifics, since it was a specific question, and then I can also talk about our principles.
Yeah, the history of the advertising cloud, going back with Media Optimizer and TubeMobile, was a huge focus on brand safety. And so we've had a number of innovative, state-of-the-art launches over the last 5 years to protect brand safety for our clients. It's different. We don't own any advertising. We don't own data. So we're really that platform that enables brands to access brand safe inventory in a way where there's a layer of protection. So they ensure they're not alongside content that's unsavory. So, I think for us, it's been a huge focus, and we do have a number of technologies embedded in the platform. I won't, like you, talk about any acquisitions on the horizon, but you can say that it's just something that we take to heart because it has been a huge issue. I will say it's improving. And I think with the focus of the industry and things that we've done and others have done, we are getting past that problem of fraud and brand safety.
And going back maybe just to add a little bit, both wrapping up the last two questions, I think our philosophy, and we really believe this as well, is for enterprises that are collecting first-party data from their customers, how we can get them to take most advantage of their first-party data is really what we're focused on a lot more. We're not in the data business, we don't buy data ourselves. And so I think focusing on that enables us to deliver a great value to our customers. I apologize, I realize that there are a lot more questions, Stacy, than we unfortunately have time for, but maybe again, just in summary, we're incredibly excited, and hopefully you walked away from today just seeing the commitment that Adobe has to continuing its innovation for all enterprises, whether they are small, mid-market, or larger enterprises, with respect to this entire digital customer journey and innovating around each parts to that. As I said again, it's not just about technology, but it's certainly also about everything that we're doing on the learning side, on the partnership side, on the ecosystem side. A number of people have asked me questions about Experience League and how can they engage in this community so that they can learn from each other, because one of the things you always hear from companies is, tell me somebody in some other industry who's doing this best in class, because I know how to do it best in class. And so I think pushing this entire agenda forward in terms of technology, people, processes, and hopefully you saw it was our intent today to just be a little more transparent about how we run our own business, so we could share how we've learned from that entire experience. But I hope you really enjoy the rest of the week. I'm sure our team's available if you have further questions that you might ask, but enjoy the rest of Summit. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Stacey.
you. Thank you, Shantanu and Narayen. Thank you all for the time. If you didn't get a question answered, the communications team is here to help you. Have a fantastic day one, and we'll see you tomorrow on day two.